Hello and welcome to MansfieldMTG. Today we're going to be looking at a cool standard matchup. It's going to be an Esper control list against a standard Rats deck. The Esper control list is mainly blue-white, as we're going to see, with a little splash of black, mostly for Lingering Souls and one of his win cons, which is Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, and the standard Rats deck is mono black, and as you would probably guessed, is based solely around Pack Rat to win games. The Esper control deck is going to be in the red sleeves, and the Rat deck will be in the thicker blue sleeves. Looks like the players are going to look at their first hands and see what they think. The Esper deck is going to be piloted by Eric, and the Rat deck will be piloted by Nate. Both players mulling through their hands here a little bit to see what they want to keep. Eric goes with the mulligan, and we'll see what Nate wants to do. He will also take a mulligan. The base strategy behind the Esper control list is just basically you're going to stall out your opponents with some really good control cards. Best in the set, really. It's you got your Dissipate is the main card that your deck's going to function around for the control aspect, and that's actually the only counterspell that he runs in the deck. He runs a 4 of Dissipate, and you're going to be able to get it back often enough with your Snapcaster Mages and Restoration Angels bouncing the Snapcaster Mages. Nate drops his hand there with no lands, and that means he's going to take a mulligan. Let's see what Eric gives a thumbs up. Looks like he's going to keep. The Rat deck really only needs 1 or 2 lands to function. And he curves out at 3 with Pack Rat's activated ability. Tap 3, discard a card, put a creature token onto the battlefield that is a copy of Pack Rat. So you can function the deck with at least, at minimum, 3 mana. But ideally it gets up to 4 mana. And you'll be able to play Disciple of Bolas. Looks like Eric's going to drop a Godless Shrine and call turn. Nate drops a Swamp. And we see a Drainpipe Vernon come down. A nice little 1-drop elf, or 1-drop rat, rather. See a lot of those in this deck, really trying to flood the field with rats. Eric drops another land and calls turn. See what Nate wants to do. See another Swamp come down. Looks like he's probably got a better hand than he did before. And he's just going to beat in for 1. Second main, he'll drop a Ravenous Rats, which means Eric has to discard a card, and he gets rid of the Lingering Souls. Nate didn't really slow him down in that case. If anything, gave him a play for this turn if he didn't have his land drop. But Eric will drop a land, and he'll tap 2 to flash back the Lingering Souls. And we see 2 Darkrai tokens, which will represent his Flying Spirits. Nate draws his card, drops his land. He's got 3 now. He can basically do anything he wants in the deck except for Disciple of Bolas. Looks like he's going to swing in with the Drainpipe Vernon. On the declared block, Nate will check his hand. And he drops an Altar's Reap, which means he gets to sacrifice the creature to draw 2 cards. He activates Drainpipe Vernon's ability on the death of the creature, so Eric has to discard another card, but he just pitches another Lingering Souls, which really isn't slowing Eric down very much. But Nate did get the 2 cards off of this, so Eric's going to just beat in for 2 damage there, and call turn. Nate draws and untaps his lands, and he's got that 4th land. Let's see what he plays here, and it's a Sign in Blood. He's going to pay 2 more life, to draw out 2 cards. Eric looks like he wants the Sign in Blood, but Nate says, no, I'll just take that one. Eric, okay, so Nate gets his 2 cards off that. And if I'm correct, that should take Nate down to 16 life. And Eric is at 19. Nate's still got 2 mana open in his main phase 1. See if he wants to play something else. And he'll tap 2 to play another Sign in Blood. Might as well just load the hand, I suppose. And that'll put him down to 14 life, I believe. On Eric's turn, end of the turn, Eric will Sphinx's Rev for 1, putting him back up to 20 and drawing 1 card. Great instant speed card, really critical in this deck. It will reload your hand, filling it with all the counter spells you're going to need in order to stall your opponent out and then eventually win the game. Probably one of the most critical cards in the deck. Eric's going to beat him for 2 more, taking Nate down to 12. See what Nate gets on the draw. Another land. Let's see, he will tap 1 black to play another Drainpipe Vernon. And he will swing in for 1, taking Eric down to 19 life. And Nate calls turn. Eric will play a Sphinx's Revelation, end of the turn for 2 this time, putting him up to 21 life. Draws 2 cards. Judging by Eric's hand position, he probably can handle anything that Nate tries to throw at him right now. We'll see what he wants to do. Usually in this deck, you don't want to try to overextend very much. You see he hasn't flashed back to Lingering Souls yet. He likes to take it pretty slow and try and be very reactive rather than proactive in the Magic game. See what Eric thinks, tapping 4 mana and playing Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Must have thought that was his best bet. Sorin works very well in this deck as a force bubble. Lots of tokens and low drop creatures. And Eric will put out an emblem, which is usually what he does. He'll drop an emblem for the Lingering Souls or the Snaps to bump them up. And he shocks himself with a Shockland and swings in for 4 now. And Nate will say, no, I'll just take 2 with the murder on one of the souls. And Eric paid the 2 life to shock himself to flashback the Lingering Souls, second main phase. And we see a Darkrai, and looks like a Rayquaza as his tokens this time. Sorin's great, he just works really well as a force bubble, and that emblem's great. Okay, we see a Shadow Alley Denizen from Nate here, and he's going to murder the Rayquaza. The Shadow Alley Denizen is very critical in this deck. If he can get a Shadow Alley Denizen out first or second turn, and then a Pack Rat, it's pretty devastating. Shadow Alley Denizen gives target creature Intimidate whenever another black creature enters the battlefield. So that means every time you make a Pack Rat token, you give another Pack Rat token Intimidate, and it escalates very quickly. Nate swings at Sorin during his battle phase, and then passes turn. Eric will drop a Delver of Secrets, which looks like it's an alt-arted Thor version of the Delver of Secrets. He actually has all of the Avengers alt-arted, which is pretty cool. And he'll just swing in for 4 and then call turn. Nate's in pretty bad position. Eric, with all of the mana he'll ever need to handle anything Nate could do. And the rat deck is pretty aggro. So this late in the game, he's probably not going to have a chance. Nate points at his lands, probably thinking about something, and he's just going to swing in, see what he can do. He must not have anything great in hand. See what he just passes turn, and Delver does not flip on the first card trigger. Eric swings 4 in, with his Darkrai and pass his turn. And that's basically what you're going to see from Eric for an entire game. Nate plays a Pack Rat, which is a little late to the party at this point, but looks like it'll resolve. Yep, and he's just going to make a token by discarding a land, which gives 2 creatures. It looks like his token is a Charizard. Those two Pack Rats that just hit the battlefield will give 2 creatures Intimidate. So you see how next turn it could get a little out of hand very quickly, dropping huge rats at 5/5, 6/6 or more that have Intimidate. Eric will Sphinx's Rev for 2 or 3. Yeah, Sphinx's Rev for 3. End of his turn, but I think Eric's probably got this one in the bag. Yep, we see the Delver trigger, but he will not Miracle the Terminus for obvious reasons with the board positions that he has. We'll see what Eric wants to do. He will play a Hallowed Fountain tapped, and I believe he has Lethal with the Sorin emblem. And they go in for the handshake. Nate has 2 lands in his hand. Alright, that was another good standard matchup. Check back at the page for more matchups of this sort. We'll be having lots of cool stuff. This is MansfieldMTG.